Bismillah, assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah, salatu salam ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa ala man wa'adu. So today I want to record you a video about the sixth video in this day. This is the EIGRP Unicast update, and we're going to talk about EIGRP default route and summary address. So before we head into the practical, we gotta know what is Unicast update and what is it for. Just imagine you have a lot of routers here, and you only want to connect to one routers, okay? And you want to connect to them. So basically, in EIGRP, they're going to send multicast messages, and it will basically have a little bit way longer time than using the Unicast update. So by updating in Unicast, you don't need to wait for the multicast message to actually came to you. So by using Unicast update, you only get it's like you connect to them trying to update by using static, just using like very simple and it's like a state start of hold on the set, like it's like a standard update, so it will immediately apply for one router to R2. So when there is an update in router 2 networks, it will not send multicast message to them. And then next we have EIGRP default route summary address. So what is a default route first? A default route is an IP addresses in the routing table where you found out every time as a 00 is a 00 addresses in the table route. So an example of using a default route is when you have an IP addresses that is not in your range, it will immediately go to the 00 addresses. So let me explain you by using the summary address. So in previous video we've used the summary IP addresses, this one, but we're going to remove that, and we're using the summary address EIGRP10 as full 00. So what will happen? So basically all of the IP addresses that got from dynamic is going to be a summary into a 000. So this is a very interesting way to actually make a default route, because it's going to be easier for you for us to maintain the routing table to not be a really mess. So let's get from the Unicast update first. In the router 1 and router 2. First thing first, you're gonna have the router EIGRP on site. Basic informations that we got these configurations from a previous video, so you gotta check that out first before you even head into the tutorial. So here we're gonna have the neighbor into 12.12 and from what interface are them. So basically it's going to be like this one, neighbor, the IP address, and the neighbor IP addresses, the destinations, and then using the interface is 00. Now once you're done, you can see that down static peer replaces multicast. It replaces the multicast into a static peer to peer. It's like that. Router EIGRP10, neighbor 10.10.10.1 is 00. Now to check this out, you gotta debug IP packet detail to see them this one. So we're gonna end this debug IP packet detail. So when you turn that on, you're gonna see some kind of this. So you can see static and D. This means that you're changing. It start from the so in router 2, when you use 2020, it means the router 3 it still use the multicast IP addresses, but when you use Unicast, it only use one IP addresses, and it will be more quicker, way more quicker. We gotta turn that off. Now once it's off, we gotta turn this off. Okay. So how about the default route summary addresses? It's very easy. We just gotta head to the R3 connect, and then you're gonna enter to the interface, IP summary address, and write down EIGRP 10.0.0.0. So why is it 00 once again? So the first thing first, you gotta understand that after EIGRP 10 is basically a summary address. What IP address do you want to summary, and the length of the IP address or the subnet. So you could basically write it like this, or you basically want to write it like this. It depends all on you, because this is using a subnet mask, not a wildcard mask. So let's try to write it like this. And now R3 will share all of the IP address. Let me show you. We have these 333 IP addresses all around the R2 and R1, and they will share it as you can see, as a summary. If you want to see it will be like this, but the sign will be D. Now, how about this? As you can see, all the IP addresses from R3 is sent into a summary. So you wouldn't see 333, alright? You wouldn't see any line of 333 here. And exactly in R2 was the same idea. It's on summary on default group. So it gives you a conclusions of it will give you a summary address like this. Now we gotta understand that once you're only using the summary addresses is when you are using an end client. So like this. Just imagine this is a router that is used by your office, and this is the internet service provider, and this is the internet. The internet was very huge. It has a lot of routers, it has a lot of connections, it has a lot of network that could be entered inside of routing table. Just an example, in R3 we only have a few IP addresses. So what would happen if you eventually have a million of them? Because there is a billion people out there using the internet, and if the internet service provider didn't summary it to the router that is used it, then the router that going to be connected will have a lot of burden. So that's why we're using a default addresses. And with this default route, it's going to be easier to maintain the network, because it's going to be we gotta have to know the informations about this default route is basically an internet. So R1 didn't actually need all of the connections, right? And so that's why it has a lot of summarizations from here. Now another example. If you want to actually configure all of the IP addresses, you only use it when you need it. An example, when your router 3 is basically your office branch, and this is the main office, and this is the data center that is connected between all of them, but you want to have connections between them. So once we try to do ping 333, it will show a success rate. So it means that even if it's not inside of the routing table, it will still be a connections. So the connection will be established even though you don't see them in the routing table. You don't see them, but you can see a default and a star. You can read from here. The D is basically an EIGRP, and the star is basically a sign of it is using a default route. So when you use default route, it will actually shows them like this. Now how about R2? Could they ping 333? And the basic answer is yes. Every IP addresses IP addresses could ping 333 even if this the default route was on 00. And that's basically it. Thank you so much for watching my video. Let's see you in the next video. Let's learn together. I'm going to explain in the further video about redistribute. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.